Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Will's Movie Log. Today, I am coming at you with my thoughts, my opinion, my evaluation, my review of the new Alien movie, Alien Romulus, which is the seventh movie in the Alien franchise if you don't count the Alien vs. Predator movies. This is also the first Alien movie in the 21st century not directed by Ridley Scott. Which is crazy because on one hand, I'm like, hell yeah, let's get some new blood in the mix. But then I stop myself and I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? You hate IP films. You hate IP filmmaking. Why are you getting excited about this? And I think the reason it's still valid, in my opinion, to get excited about new Alien movies is because this series has proven to be surprisingly fertile stomping ground for directors who want to come in and sort of introduce their own take or their own fresh perspective on what should be a pretty straightforward sort of movie monster kind of affair. I mean, you've got the first Alien, which is sort of a classic horror movie, which was immediately followed up by Aliens, which completely shakes things up by taking what started off as a classic horror movie and then turning it into this balls-to-the-wall action spectacle that shouldn't work and yet is one of the best action movies of all time. And then you've got Alien Cubed, as the real heads call it, which is a extremely dark, bleak, grim, sort of 90s industrial nightmare. You've got Alien Resurrection, which, full disclosure, it's the only Alien movie that I haven't seen, but it is directed by famous art house filmmaker Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who is most famous for doing Amelie and City of Lost Children. And, you know, based on what I've heard about Resurrection, even if you don't like it, it is supposed to be very weird and artsy, at least relative to the rest of the series. So there's that. Then in 2012, we got an almost completely standalone prequel, Prometheus, which, while I don't think is perfect, does inject some really interesting and evocative sort of cosmic mystery and cosmic dread into the series. And then that was followed immediately by Alien Covenant, which, you know, sees Ridley Scott continue to sort of expand on the alien mythos and lore in some really insane ways, and doing it all through this sort of gothic mad scientist story that's told, you know, with Michael Fassbender's character. So all of that is to say that I think the key to understanding why this franchise means a lot to its fans, including me, is because it has proven to be so dynamic and again, such fertile ground for each installment offering some new ideas and fresh perspectives, which I think is the key to keeping any film franchise new and interesting. And it's the type of thing that honestly I think you could watch in a weekend and not get bored. So where does that leave Alien Romulus? What is its contribution to this very rich tradition? And I think we should start off with the beginning of the movie itself, where we are introduced to this sort of ragtag team of off-world teenage sort of, or at least borderline teenage, sort of young adult, essentially gig workers who are living in this really bleak kind of purgatory, where they are consigned to live on this planet that doesn't receive any sunlight, and they are essentially indentured servants for the Weyland Corporation. And just when they think they've built up enough credit to end the terms of their indentured servitude and sort of escape this purgatory sort of serfdom nightmare and maybe move to a different planet that has better opportunities, the Weyland Corporation changes the terms of their employment and essentially keeps shifting the goalpost, which leaves them essentially trapped on this planet. And I really appreciated this because throughout the Alien series, the Weyland Corporation has always been essentially a metaphor for what unchecked greed and capitalism looks like. And in the first two movies, it's actually very explicit that it is their pursuit of greed and pursuit of profit, right, by containing the xenomorph rather than killing it, that poses an existential threat to humanity and threatens to kill everybody. And I feel like Alien Romulus sort of fleshes out this theme by going even a step further and saying, no, the problem is not just like a lack of regulation or a lack of OSHA agents, checking on the Weyland Corporation and making sure they're following OSHA guidelines. It is literally, this is what happens when corporations are able to dictate and control every aspect of every individual's life. So it's cool to see the Alien series sort of return to its anti-capitalist roots. So, Comrade Fede Alvarez, Viva la Revolucion. So from here, this sort of ragtag team of sort of young adult serfs find out that there is a spaceship floating in orbit that has this very valuable material and fuel that allows people to enter cryogenic stasis so that they can travel throughout space. And they decide that they are going to essentially board the ship, smuggle aboard it, steal this fuel, and then make off so they can get rich and get out of this purgatory nightmare. They board the ship, find a xenomorph, and antics ensue. Now, the first part of Romulus is essentially the first Alien, in the sense that it is about this sort of disparate group of working class people who have to band together so that they can escape and eventually fight this big monster. And another thing that I sort of want to highlight is that the production design in this movie, I think, is beautiful and brilliantly captures sort of the spirit and the essence of the franchise, especially the first Alien. It's very interesting how, because the first Alien came out in 1979, when in the real world people were still using these very bulky sort of consoles, right, with their computers and TVs and these very big, ostentatious, sort of clackety buttons. That was part of the design of Alien when it came out, and just kind of by virtue of that, it's sort of become a staple for retrofuturism, which, I think is just kind of interesting. And I think it's cool that Alien Romulus really sticks to that tradition without changing it or revising it, and I thought it did a great job of that. Then about halfway through, it sort of switches gears and goes from being Alien to Aliens, and essentially goes from being a horror movie to a horror action. And then at the very end, it even throws in a bit of Prometheus. So, here's the verdict. In my mind, Alien Romulus, for better and for worse, is essentially a speedrun of the series, which should be a problem because, for one, Alien and Aliens are movies that occupy completely different genres, and the idea of combining them into one movie really should not work. Yet here, it works about as well as it can. And I think what's really interesting about Alien Romulus is that people are going to have very different reactions to this. I mean, for some people, this is going to be seen as this demonic, very cynical, sort of studio-driven exercise and just kind of playing the greatest hits, right? I mean, think of, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. And then I think for some people, it is going to be seen as a very faithful love letter to the series that it's a part of. And I've sort of gone back and forth between those feelings. I mean, in some ways, I did feel like this was kind of cynical and exploitative, but I don't know. I mean, given how successfully I think Alvarez manages to sort of shift gears between the different, sort of phases and the different Alien movies and create something that is pretty coherent and cohesive and enjoyable, I feel like it does a reasonably good job of sort of playing homage. And there were definitely moments that felt very exploitative. Like, there's been a lot of controversy because Ian Holm, who was in the first Alien movie, was essentially brought back from the grave to give this truly horrifying and baffling sort of deep fake performance that is not just in one part or scene. It is over the course of the entire movie. And it's totally baffling because it looks hideous. And then there's another part where one of the characters quotes a very famous line from Aliens, and I practically groaned in the theater. I thought it was so corny. Still, like I said, the fact that Romulus manages to combine Alien, Aliens, and a little bit of Prometheus and still feel cohesive is pretty impressive to me. I do also think it's a testament to sort of the state of modern horror, in the sense that yes, it does combine sort of horror and action, but the thing is, a lot of modern studio horror movies just kind of feel like blockbuster action movies. I mean, that was how I felt about the recent It movies. It was actually kind of how I felt about Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead remake that he did back in 2013, as well as the new Evil Dead movie that came out a year or two ago. And I don't know, it just kind of like, I think part of the reason that something like this works is and doesn't feel that out of place is because that's just kind of the sensibility that a lot of horror movies have now. And, you know, sometimes they can almost feel like, I don't know, like Disney movies or like Disney amusement rides or something. So anyway, to bring everything to a close, I know that I started off this review sounding like I loved this, and then at some point probably sounded like I hated it, but the truth is I probably fall somewhere in the middle, and overall I do think that Alien Romulus is a really enjoyable movie that at its best moments faithfully captures the spirit of the Alien franchise, even though it does suffer from a lack of originality and a lack of unique identity that seems attached to every other movie in the series. Also, I haven't talked about it because I just haven't gone around to it, but I do want to give a shout out to the cast. I think every cast member in this really kills it and really delivers, and everybody is just so expressive and plays a unique role in this sort of like, you know, classic teenager slasher sort of lineup. And Kaylee Spaney is badass. Like, she kicks ass as a final girl, and I really, really enjoyed watching her in this. So overall, I would give Alien Romulus a pretty solid 3 out of 5 stars. And yeah, that's my review. So I am curious to see what everybody else thinks. Please comment down below. Let me know what you think of it. You know, how do you feel like it stacks up in the series? How would you rank the movies? Yeah, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, take care.